Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Thursday, January the 6th, in fact, yes, just checking that there. I'm joined by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW at A Haggerty 10 on the Twitter handles. Morning, Sean.
Not bad, Tony. How are you?
I'm good. It's never a dull day in the world of the leather belts, so let's get cracking. Now, Celtic might be signing a young player from Sligo Rovers, an attacker, striker. Supposedly moved for €150,000, 125 grand.
Yep.
That's seemingly in the offing. He's going to maybe come and play in the B team first and then see if he can carve his name in the history of the club.
Yep, Johnny Kenny. Looks as if it's getting closer. I had a wee look at him the other day, which you can all find on the site. Quite an in-depth look at his background, the kind of player he is, that kind of thing. He's only 18. He's playing in Sligo's first team. Played the full season. It's probably likely, I agree, it's probably likely that he would be joining the B team. Hibs are apparently after him as well, so I wonder if there's an avenue where he joins Celtic and goes on loan to someone else, because he is already used to seniors football. He's played in the Europa Conference League qualifiers for Sligo and scored as well. So he maybe, although he can't turn down Celtic, you would think he maybe wouldn't want to be playing B team football if all things are equal. So in that sense, he probably will join the B team, but in that sense, there might be an avenue if he joins Celtic to maybe go on loan and actually continue with first team football.
Would you see him going on loan to Hibs if they wanted?
I don't know. I suppose it depends if Hibs were buying him to play now or if they were buying him for the same project kind of reasons. Because if he's going to go on loan and Hibs are already interested in him and they were wanting to play him, then fair enough. But if it was, as I say, like a project kind of thing, then there's no point in putting him out on loan to Hibs just not to play. So,
of course. Now, here's one for you, Sean, in the comments. Simon Thomas is straight in there to say, what position does your depth chart suggest we need strengthening? So,
well, after those three signings, the one that sticks out to me is probably another backup striker if Ayeti was to leave. Although I do think Maeda can fit that mould as well. I do think, as much as I've said that I wouldn't expect it in this window, I do think that if Barkas was to leave, depending on your thoughts on Bain, there should be maybe a better option coming in. His Hearts backup as well. But overall, it's actually looking not bad just now. So I think it would be more, rather than absolutely need to strengthen one of the positions, it's more about generally strengthening the quality that's there if they bring in anyone else.
Indeed. Now, another person who could be on the way out, Sean, is Liam Shaw. St Johnstone were credited with initial interest, but it looks like Motherwell have possibly picked him to a loan signing until the end of the season at least.
It looks like he's going to go to Motherwell. I said the other day to you that I wouldn't mind seeing him staying in Scotland for a loan spell, just to continue to get used to the football up here. That said, I'm not sure about Motherwell stylistically for Celtic when you think about it, because that's ultimately who's going on loan to benefit rather than Motherwell themselves. They don't play with the ball most of the game, don't press particularly high, play the third most long balls in the league, that kind of thing. So in terms of style, I'm not sure how much it will benefit his game. But in terms of staying in Scotland, they're maybe thinking, well, it's a team doing really well this season anyway, lots of positivity about it, and it might help them assimilate better in that way. But either way, I do think he needs a loan move, because even with injuries, he never kicked a ball. So
I'm all for players going on loan to other clubs in Scotland, Sean, to get to know the terrain and get to know everywhere that they're going to play if they come back to Celtic, and then can make that positive impact that we were talking about yesterday. So maybe there's a method in the I was going to say madness, not particularly madness, but the wisdom there, and just letting him go and play at all the grounds that he will play at when he comes back, if he comes back.
Aye, there's more of a Christopher Ayer to Kilmarnock about it, I think. Potentially than a Ryan Christie to Aberdeen. Ryan Christie to Aberdeen was, despite the reputation that Derek McInnes had at that point, he did let Ryan Christie play his creative kind of role, and actually done really, really well at Aberdeen, which is why they wanted to keep him. But equally, he went to Aberdeen, done well enough that when he came back, he got a chance and ended up taking it. Ayer to Kilmarnock, obviously there was the kind of to help him learn a new position as well. There was that aspect of it. I don't think that's going to be the case with Shaw, but it can work. As I said to you the other day, there's plenty of examples of it not working, but there are a few of it working. So you've got to give a boy the benefit of the doubt, give him the chance.
Charlie McGarvey comes in and says, centre half for me, Julian has become a genius since he got injured. his book because the amount of times Julian was getting pushed around. Welsh and Starfelt are both average at best, controversial, and Justin Studley comes in and says, "Hey boys, I wonder who Johnny was, but much from me, you should explain it. Love the channel. Looking forward to the second half of the SPFL season." Thank you very much, Justin. Going back to Charlie's point about centre half, we've spoken before at length about Julian. We don't know what player is going to come back, what he'll be like and how long it will take him to come back. Would you see bringing in another centre back then as possible this window?
Probably not, to be honest, because if he's coming back from injury. Obviously, it does depend on what level he reaches, but there's already 3 first-team centre backs there. I don't really see that he would add another to sit behind them all in the pecking order, unless something became available where it's clearly the guy that's going to be coming in is going to be the first choice defender. Then no, I don't see any other one coming in. Stephen Welsh would just be blocked further from getting game time. Carter Vickers obviously on loan, looking to maybe make it permanent. He is, to me, he's probably the first name at centre back just now. Starfelt has the jersey, but again, with Julian coming back, that's 4 for 2 positions. I don't see him going for a 5th.
Yeah. Frank Brennan, regular contributor, comes in, stating the obvious as we all know, but the likes of a Jetty Barkas, Paul and Golly Johnson, and of course Barkas I'll need to get rid of as a matter of urgency, but who is it that will ever want them? Well, that's the difficulty here, Sean, isn't it?
That's it. It's all on the assumption that there are suitors for players that you want to offload. And speaking of suitor,
comedy timing or just timing, Simon Thomas there.
All right.
There we go.
The end of this season, Simon, it is. So that's why there's quite a lot of rumours going about him, because obviously stayed fit all this season, which has benefited Hearts, but will probably no longer benefit Hearts now that teams want him. I've said before, I do think he would be a good addition in the summer. I don't think you need him now necessarily. That said, Ange has already experimented with a back 3. He's used to a back 3. If he's wanting to use that now and again, maybe for certain challenges, that's the kind of thing that he would suit as well. He's good with the ball at his feet. But as I say, I don't expect another centre half this summer. This window, maybe in the summer. It's a pre-contract with Suter, but again, there's plenty of teams interested. Tony, you were saying off-air, Blackburn are looking
Blackburn
at.
Are the latest to be sucking Tony Mowbray kind of advisor.
He might fancy England, and Blackburn are going well again. So you never know.
Yeah.
They might see it as an avenue to the English Premier League.
Definitely, I was just looking at that earlier on before we come on here, and Blackburn have been credited with a strong interest, so that's maybe one to keep your eye out for as well. David Bradley, another regular contributor, another good goalkeeper, or another goalkeeper. Well, we've spoken at length that my 2 picks would be Xander Clark and Siegrist from Dundee United, but we've spoken and said that we're not too sure if any of them would want to be second fiddle to Hart, because they're both kind of first choice goalkeepers at the club, aren't they? So
that's the thing. Xander Clark, I mean, I really do like Xander Clark. I think I weirdly picked him out as St Johnstone's key man for the semi-final. It's a bit odd picking a keeper as the key man, but I really did feel that his performance was going to be crucial to whether they could actually upset Celtic that day. Very good shot stopper. What I would say is you never really know how a guy who plays for a team that concedes a lot of shots and has a lot of stuff to do is going to cope when he doesn't have a lot of things to do during a game. So there's that kind of unknown, and there's always that unknown with a player that comes from a team that's very unlike Celtic in a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, Pedro comes in and says Boyle would excel or will excel under Ange. I'm assuming he's talking about Martin Boyle. That's another one that's bubbling away, Sean.
I mentioned it to you yesterday. I wouldn't take Boyle, but that's not to say that he's not a good player, because I actually think he's a really good player. But the qualities that he brings, what is he going to add that they've not already got? Kind of thing. If anything, you be wanting someone that can maybe help in the kind of circumstances that Celtic have struggled to break down a low block. Where's he going to run if there's 2 banks of 5s in the middle, in front of him, that kind of thing? He's a very good player. He would probably actually be better for Celtic in Europe when the games are a wee bit more open than he would be in the league. But no, I don't see the need for adding Martin Boyle.
Now, another one that's been floating around in Europe is Borussia Mönchengladbach, Hans Wolf, Sean. Now, I do a bit of research. People think I just come off the cuff and start speaking, but I kind of like to look around and read around. And there's talk of a loan deal possibly with Celtic in the mix. Kicker, German newspaper magazine, they're quite on the ball with these things, and they're saying that Celtic are certainly circling around trying to maybe get a loan deal for Hans Wolf. But I think Rapid Vienna, Trabzonspor and Başakşehir from Turkey, I hope I've got that right. Sure, somebody will let me know if I haven't. They're all in the mix too, but he's an intriguing one. A lot of Celtic supporters, from what I've been reading, like the look of this guy, and he's Austrian. He's just kind of lost his way a wee bit at Mönchengladbach, and it could maybe be beneficial to both parties, something like that.
Well, aye, maybe. I mean, Ross Goodwin done a scouting report on him for the website, which I'd encourage people to read, because it definitely does seem like a great fit. I just wonder how doable it actually is with everything else that's going on with recruitment-wise this window. We've already signed 2 midfielders as well. I mean, even when he went on loan from Salzburg to Gladbach originally, it was like $1.5 million, the fee just for the loan. And then they paid another 9 to make it permanent. So even if it is just a loan and no option to buy, one, you're only getting him for five months at that point, really. He does look like a good fit, but I just wonder how doable it's going to be with the finances, that's all.
Would you look at that as a means to an end, Sean, that if he did come and he performed well and Celtic won the league and got into the Champions League, then it would be kind of job done on that?
Aye, you could certainly look at it that way, aye.
Short-termism,
Aye, the thing is, I don't tend to like the kind of set. Maybe it's from the last couple of seasons, the experience of January loan signings to tide you over until the end of the season. And you're right with your piece yesterday. It does feel different the way that they're approaching this January window. So that's a given. But yes, I have my reservations about short-term loans from January to see you till the end of the season.
Yeah. David Bradley, another regular contributor, comes in and says, want him, Tony the Wolf, love him. So there you go. Another one who clearly looks around and does his homework. But yeah, I mean, it's like every day you're waking up and there are new names linked with the club, Sean, and there will be lots of to and fro, but I don't think the 3 Japanese players will be the last to come in, or Liam Shaw will be the last to leave before January's out.
No, I think both of us agreed that the main 3 that we would ideally you would see maybe trim the squad a wee bit. It would be Barkas, Bolingoli and Ayeti, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm on the fence with Ayeti. I would quite like to see maybe another striker be available, whether that's Johnny Kenny, maybe he does come into the first team reckoning as a central striker. Joey Dawson's obviously made the step up there with the injuries and stuff for the COVID unavailability. But just having Kyogo and then Giakoumakis, who so far hasn't been available all that often, would maybe not be the best way to approach January onwards, especially since Kyogo has had his own injury worries as well. As I say, I personally think Maeda can fill that gap as well when Kyogo needs rested or rotated. But it would be quite light in the central striker position, I think. So
you would like to think that given all this time that he's had a layoff, that Giakoumakis would have something to contribute when we reconvene, that he should be up to speed and maybe fit now, Sean?
Aye, I think, well, he's been brought in to play at least some part. He's not going to be brought in just to be the kind of guy. As I say, the Ferencváros games, come on, the last 5 minutes, play really well in terms of holding the ball, but not just lumping it up and flicking it onto nobody. He was holding it in, winning fouls to spoil their kind of momentum to try and get back in the game, that kind of thing. But you want more than that from a guy who was Eredivisie top scorer. Taking a number 7 shirt and stuff, you want more than that from him. So that's going to be his big mission for the last half of the season, is to actually, when he gets on, get some goals and get some performances. It's more than just 5 minutes at the end of games.
Simon Thomas comes in and says, I actually don't think Ayeti will leave. That's possible. And Frank Brennan comes in, and we must see the invisible man, Georges Giakoumakis, in the coming months. Otherwise, what on earth has happened with him? You know, we are in full agreement with that, Frank, that Georges Giakoumakis now has to step up to the plate and become the player that Celtic thought they'd signed. You say the Eredivisie top scorer. And Ozzy Adam comes in and says, with Ayeti's work rate sitting on the bench will be a good workout for him. Fair enough. You know, but it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you never try and second guess what's going to happen, but every day something is moving on, and there's still obviously the Jota and Carter Vickers deals bubbling away as well, Sean, that I think most Celtic supporters would think that if Celtic can conclude any other business those two would really be the ones that they want. Isn't that right? In permanent deals?
I think so. I think. I mean, the what we were talking about the other day, I would still ask if it is the option to buy and it's Celtic's exclusive option to buy. Do you really need to do it in January? Probably not. But I think all things being equal, if you say it's either get those two tied down or bring in another two, you would probably opt for getting those two permanently tied down.
Yeah, I think the Celtics support. I mean, it would just can't continue that feel-good factor that they've had to the start of the new year. I mean, the new year isn't even a week old. They've signed 3 players, and there's a real kind of feel-good factor coursing through the club. It's a lot of positivity, Sean, isn't it? Again,
it is. And the thing is, it's as someone pointed out to us in the Twitter comments yesterday, or the Facebook comments, it might have been. It's not like Celtic haven't spent at all the last couple of years. They actually spent quite a bit of money, even with the pandemic and stuff. My issue was always who they were spending it on, and the fact that they brought in 12 players in the summer, and I would argue that maybe half of those you could argue weren't required particularly. So it was always about the quantity versus quality thing. I think they very much veered towards the quantity. Some of that was because players had left and other players were obviously about to leave and they knew that. But nonetheless, I still think it should always be more about the quality for a squad like Celtic. And finally, it looks as if in this window they're trying to get a happy balance with that, because 3 players in before the window even opens is good. And opening talks with the players that they know are already affecting the team in a positive manner, like Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, that's also a positive sign.
And you mentioned it yesterday. That's the kind of thrust of my piece yesterday. I did mention biscuit tin mentality, but it was a historical reference.
Aye, of course.
Times gone by where Celtic failed to prepare in the January window, and then rued that in the qualifiers coming up because they never brought in players to settle and do it that way.
Aye. I looked at when we lost to Midtjylland and then I done a wee thing just looking. Just obviously you mentioned it in your piece as well that Brendan Rodgers' team was the last one to actually get to the group stages and stuff. And it was, to me, the one constant running through it was the fact that they leave their business until after they try to qualify, that kind of thing a lot of the time in the summer. It's harder in January, they say, to actually think ahead the 6 months to get people bedded in and actually make the right signings in January more, because it's halfway through a season, people want to go on loan rather than permanently, that kind of thing. But that's also the benefit of having a manager in Naj Postecoglou that's looking at a market that's now in its off-season, so it is their summer in a way, that kind of thing. So that has actually came to Celtic's benefit in this time. I mean, you're right though in a historical aspect of the biscuit tin and stuff, and I get that. The one thing I remember, I still have my doubts as to whether it would have made the difference that it felt like at the time, but when I was in school was the January not signing Stephen Fletcher in January. Do you remember that?
Don Strachan's team,
Yeah, that was a big one. And when I was in school, I remember everybody talking about that one. I have my doubts, personally. I have my doubts whether that actually, looking back on it, trying to be more objective, whether just signing Stephen Fletcher would have been the thing that was needed. But that's the one I remember.
Yeah, of course. But it's it's preparation, Sean, isn't it? And I think with having Ange in situ, as you say, preparation's key now. He is looking at a market and a season that's finished, and he can bring players. So that's, you're a step ahead of the game in that sense. Because I get it how hard it is to attract players in January. But if you're preparing well and you think that players can make a difference to your team and it can help you prepare for the qualifiers, then you have to do it, don't you? And that's the problem. Celtic didn't do it in the previous Januaries. And I think, what is it? Well, they won the league 9 times, obviously 9 times at the last 10, and failed to qualify for the Champions League 6 out of that 9. Am I right?
I think it's that. I mean, it was even if you don't look at it from the 9, even if you just look at it from the last time that they actually did qualify, there's a litany of things there where you can go, well, they never done this, they never replaced that, they never acted quick enough, never backed the manager quick enough, that kind of thing. And it spans more than one manager, put it that way. It spans a couple of managers. It's not just the one guy's reign. It
spans that whole era, doesn't it?
Thing.
It spans the whole 9 in a row era. That's what I mean. To fail to qualify 6 out of 9 times, for the Champions League, it smacks of a lack of preparation, really, doesn't it? And I think that's what got on Celtic supporters go. You know, that they thought January was a chance to get guys in and to you know, do your homework and, you know, forward planning and act like a big club.
Well, see, that's the thing that I think that's the thing that irks quite a lot of fans, is that the acting like a big club thing. The ideal chance to do that was when your biggest rivals were down and out, that kind of thing, to make it an almost insurmountable big club, the biggest club, that kind of thing. And I think that's what irks people, is that they didn't really put their foot in the gas, which is often the kind of analogy that people use for it, and I'd agree with it, that they didn't do that. And I think that's what irks a lot of people about it.
Which is why, as you see, the three guys coming in before the window's kicked off, and the talks with Jota, talks with Cameron Carter-Vickers, this one feels different. Because they have a manager in situ and maybe a board members in situ to think, okay, we'll do it differently this time. Because it certainly feels different, doesn't it?
It does. I'd agree with you there. And on the three signings here, I'll answer this question just from Stephen, that all three new signings, no, I don't think so. It's not. They were initially, I think, in the kind of J-League based squad for Japan's Uzbekistan game, but that was a different squad to what like Kyogo will be involved in, which he could miss that game at the start of February because, as Ange has already said, if he gets called up, he'll be going, that kind of thing. Same with Rogic with Australia's games. That's actual competitive, like, proper games. The Uzbekistan game, they'd almost picked like a J-League select, so they've now been released from that squad. They won't be included in that squad as far as I'm aware, so they'll actually be able to play before the derby. They could play against Hibs. January 22nd, is it Hibs? January 22nd? No, Alloa in the Cup on January 22nd. They could conceivably play that game as well now. So, kind of, depends what way you want to look at that, whether it's half full or half empty there, but you won't be without all five of them, put it that way.
Well, there's a positive note to end the broadcast on. We won't be without all five of them for the Rangers game. Sean, as ever, love your contribution. Thanks to all the contributors. We appreciate it. And as I say, we always try and read as many out as we can. All the regular guys who come in and give us their comments and their thoughts. Appreciate it big time. Have a cracking day, guys. And we shall... In fact, I'm off tomorrow, Sean. You'll be...
Me and Alison tomorrow, yes. We'll be here.
Alison in the hot seat. Good show. Have a cracking day, guys. Cheers, Sean. Thanks for that.
Cheers, guys. Tap.